Can you read cursive? It's a superpower. Okay.
Yeah, I
Uh,
can read cursive.
the National Archives is looking for. They're looking for that superpower. Okay, and I was discussing this earlier with File 13, and I was saying I learned cursive in school. I was never great at it, but I learned it and I can do it. Reading it wasn't taught to us because it's something, it's like regular letters except with more loops. It was never taught to us. It was like, of course you can read cursive. Duh. It's not a foreign language.
Yeah.
So it reading it wasn't taught. Not in my school. You could just read it. It was that simple. So, I'm failing to understand what's going on with people that, okay, they can't read or write cursive. Okay, so it might take them some practice to write it, but not a lot. It don't take a whole hell of a lot, but to read it, that's the part that's throwing me for a loop.
Well, now it's like kids, they a lot of teachers say they don't even use their tablets and stuff to look up stuff.
Yeah,
They
that's
don't even
actually
type
that's actually
anymore.
in this article, but I'll get to it. If you can read cursive, the National Archives would like a word or a few million, more than 200 years worth of U.S. documents need transcribing or at least classifying. And the vast majority from the Revolution War era are handwritten in cursive, requiring people who know the flowing, anyway, uh, flowing loop form of penmanship. Yeah, I get what they're saying now. Flowing is like, I didn't know where they were going with that. Reading cursive is a superpower, said Susan Isaacs, uh, a community manager with the National Archives catalog in Washington D.C. They're looking for volunteers with increasingly rare skill. It's not that hard, people. You
It
know,
is.
let's say you don't know how to type on a regular keyboard, a PC keyboard, which would also mean you can't use a typewriter. But typewriter takes a bit more to learn. There's more to it, but spend 2 days having a conversation with somebody on the internet, and you will have your keyboard down for the most part. Ta da! It, I just can't wrap my head around people not being able to read cursive because I don't know about you, but for me, they didn't teach you how to read it. You just could.
Yeah, I mean, it was, you got your cursive and you basically could read it because all it is letters connected. So, but these days,
There,
people,
there, there's I don't know 2 or 3 letters that look different from your typical letter in print, but for the most part, it's just more loops of the same thing.
yeah,
Same thing with loops. To
yeah,
volunteer, all that is required is to sign up online and then launch in. There's no application, she said. Just pick a record that hasn't been done and read the instructions. It's easy to do for a half an hour a day or a week. So they're having volunteers come and transcribe. That's probably not the brightest idea. Talk
I
about
would,
rewriting history.
oh, I would love to get a hold of all them archives and go through it and stuff.
But you can.
I
That's what I'm
know.
saying. You now they're going, hey, just sign in.
I thought about doing it actually because it'd be interesting for me to see all the, delving
Yeah.
into the daily
Uh,
lives of people back then.
yeah, I can see it. Uh my farmhand got out of hand today and I had to whip him 4 times today, 3 yesterday.
Oh, but do you know that in some of the catalogs of the plantations in the South, they actually did keep records of that?
Yeah, that's my point.
I mean, I don't know why. I don't know the significance of it.
People also seem to forget that it wasn't just the South that had slaves.
Yeah, I
But the
know.
biggest thing they seem to forget is damn near everybody were slaves at some point, and the blacks were slaves for the shortest amount of time in history, to my knowledge. The Irish were slaves. The Native Americans, they attempted to make them slaves, and they couldn't really. They were too wild. The Chinese were slaves. The Slavics obviously were slaves, is where the word comes from, and so on. Uh, some yellow, some white. You know,
Yeah.
you get where I'm going with this. But everybody's like, uh, stand up to the whitey, black power, and reparations. And we put up with your shit long enough. It's like I never owned anyone. I don't know what you're talking about. My family were slaves going way back, just like yours. So shut the fuck up.
Yeah. But in different parts of the world, that word means different things. It's like, okay, if you owed somebody money,
Indentured slaves, for example, was one of them.
if you owed somebody money or something and you couldn't pay them back with money, you would work for them for a certain amount of time until your debt was paid off.
Sure, I'm not denying that slavery was bad. I'm not denying that whatsoever, or that there was all types of abuse and murder stuff and other unspeakable acts. All I'm saying is all of our bloodlines went through it at some point. And no modern white person in America, anyway, has owned slaves unless you're talking about Hillary Clinton or somebody. For
Oh God. Oh
that
Lord
matter,
have mercy.
Kamala Harris, uh, she would use prisoners to do work for her.
Yeah,
Let me
that's
continue
true.
here. Handwriting continued to be considered a necessary skill until the 1990s when many people shifted to email, and then in the 2000s to texting. By 2010, the Common Core teaching standards emphasized keyboard skills once taught as typewriting and no longer required handwriting, on the presumption that most of the writing students would wait presumption that most of the writing students would be on a computer. You read it because that sounds wrong to me.
Oh God. Okay. By 2010, the Common Core teaching standards emphasized keyboard skills once taught as typewriting and no longer required handwriting, on the presumption that most of the writing students would be on computers.
Would be on computers. Do they need an editor or what, or is it just me?
I think it makes sense.
Okay. Anyway, maybe there's a comma missing.
Maybe.
It throws me off somehow. But anyway, so they're going. Oh, they all got smartphones now. Let's not teach them how to write. What?
I don't know anymore. I
What?
just don't know. I don't know. I don't know. What are they thinking? Of course, you need to learn how to write, but that doesn't mean the students will do it.
Started thinking to myself, man,
Man, what the fuck is you
what the
talking
fuck
about?
was that?
I'm sorry, man.
That's
What the
what I'm
fuck?
saying. That's what I'm
S-
saying.
Some of our students aren't even typing anymore. Instead, they're just using talk to text technology and even artificial intelligence. I know that because there's no punctuation. It reads like a stream of consciousness. Okay, a lot of these young people they're got in their head that, like, this is the way, this is the future. We're superior. We've evolved. No, you haven't, because you're depending on a corporation and a sophisticated piece of technology. And if anything happens to that, you will be a moron that will sit there doing this to air,
Yep.
not being able to read and write properly, missing out on basic human skills.
Yep. Like filling out job applications and stuff like that. signing your name to legal documents, and all
Social
manner of
skills.
things. Yeah, social skills,
The skills
everything.
required to procreate. It's like, sure, you'll have the instinct to hump, but you won't know how to get to that point to that do the humping.
Yep. It'll be like a puppy humping air.
To survival skills. Like I was saying earlier about he said fix me a sandwich. What I told him, can you build a house? Yeah, I can build a fucking house. I've built a bunch of them. And it's sad to me that there's a lot of you fuckers out there that can't. Now, I understand if you haven't, but you should be able to. AI is starting to be able to read cursive, but only with human help, said the National Archives Sullivan. So they have resorted to using AI to pick up this because there's not enough people that can or will or can read cursive. There's usually some mistakes, she said, so we call it extracted text. And our volunteers have to look over it and compare it to the original. But as the article is pointing out, they're lacking volunteers because people cannot read cursive. And I'll say it again. I was taught cursive in school, but I was never taught to read it, and I could read it. It's not something we had to be taught. It's just like print with a lot of loops.